Hello, welcome back to a brand new video. I'm your host Daniel, and today we are doing the final of the non-canonical Sherlock Holmes games. That is Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective, The Case of the Tin Soldier. I'm just going to get straight into it because I hate hearing the so loud. This is the final one of the non-canonical chronological ones, I believe. So, Inspector Smith is greeted at the door of 221B Baker Street by Holmes' housekeepers, Miss Hudson. Consulting Director and the Doctor bid him enter. Oh, bid him enter. Okay. Whatever.
May we be of some assistance, Inspector Smythe?
General Farnsworth Armstead, one of the 6 surviving Waterloo Tontine ticket holders, has been murdered.
Waterloo Tontine?
The Waterloo Tontine was a lottery of sorts, Watson. It was set up in 1815 to aid the veterans of the Battle of Waterloo. Wellington's victory over Napoleon.
Yes, of course, I knew that.
Quite an ingenious plan on the part of the founders.
Indeed.
£1 bought a ticket in the name of some young relative. The ticket proceeds amounted to over £1 million. Half went immediately to veterans and their families for medical and hardship expenses.
What became of the other half?
It all went into an account at the Bank of England, where it's been collecting interest all these years.
Bank of England
Very
already.
clever. And how does one win this prize?
Simply by outliving all the other ticket holders.
And now you say one of them has been murdered. Very suspicious. Who are the remaining 5?
The oldest is Captain Robert Jurgens, age 82. Then there are Anita and Claire Thomas, who are 80-year-old twins. William Rowland is 79, and Peter Dudley is 77. Poor General Armstead was the youngest at 74.
Seems as if he would have had the best chance to outlive the others.
Kill them
I
first.
recall reading something in the Times about a big to-do involving the Tontine survivors on the 18th.
That's correct. The Waterloo anniversary banquet at the Langham Hotel.
Okay.
Why is the name Armstead
There's a
familiar?
load of names
He was a
here.
noted art collector, I believe. He also authored a well-known book, Treasures of the Conquerors.
Quite right. At the time of his death, General Armstead was working on a revised edition for his publisher, Nugget and Company. It was to contain an entirely new chapter on a fabulous diamond called the Polar Star, which at one point belonged to Joseph Bonaparte, Napoleon's brother. The general had new information which traced the gem to its present owner.
Tell me about the circumstances of General Armstead's death.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, let me see. At 10 o'clock this morning, the general's valet, David Sennett, admitted a caller to the general's
Load of
study.
names I've got to
Sennett says he did not know the man. He was elderly and spoke with a French accent. Sennett told him the general never saw anyone in the morning while he was at work. The gentleman insisted that if Armstead read the letter he had with him, he would make an exception. And so it was. Sennett took the letter in, Armstead read it, and went quite pale. He told Sennett to let the gentleman in. Sensing something amiss, Sennett dawdled in the area of the study for the next 15 minutes or so. Then he heard the distinct sound of swordplay. He tried to enter the study, but found the door locked. Then he heard the crash of breaking glass. He raced to the kitchen and out the back door to enter the study from the garden. By the time he got there, the caller had vanished, and the general was leaning heavily against a shattered display case of military miniatures.
Okay.
Before Sennett could assist him, he dropped a saber from his hand and fell over dead.
They said it was a
I take
man
it the
as
letter,
well.
which so upset the general, was nowhere to be found.
Correct, Mr. Holmes.
Well, we shall put our brains and our feet to the task.
Okay. So we know it's a man. Potentially, wait, it might be. But then again, it could just be someone's coming through the back door. Got so many names there as well. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm not even gonna read the papers just yet. I'm gonna go into the directory and see if I can remember any of the names of the people, or I'll just go straight to like the Bank of England.
Could you tell us exactly how much the Tontine prize money amounts to at this time?
The Tontine Fund, with interest accruing for the past 75 years, amounts to just shy of £3 million.
Wow.
Quite a tidy sum, I'd say.
75 years. 3 million, okay. We'll go to the Cox as well, just in case. Never mind. Armstead, he was one of them. On the right track.
I found the general leaning over the display case. He had his saber in hand, the one that usually resides above the fireplace.
I understand he was a collector of military figures.
Yes, the display in the study shows the last great British charge that swept the French from Waterloo.
Is there any significance to the fact that the figure of Napoleon is facing backward?
How strange. Perhaps I should go and set it straight.
No, don't touch it. Not until the police have concluded their investigation.
Oh, yes, of course.
I also noticed the portrait over the display case.
The late Mrs. Armstead.
Do I detect a note of hostility?
I must admit we did not get on very well. But I might say that Mrs. Armstead did not get on very well with anyone, including the general.
You mean they didn't marry for love?
Hardly. Lord Fitch, Mrs. Armstead's father, arranged the match.
Fitch.
Her dowry was very generous. Lord Fitch would have paid any amount to ensure that he would not be left with a spinster daughter, especially such a nasty one.
If there was no love lost between them, why did he keep her portrait in his study?
Actually, it was put up there to needle Mrs. Armstead's brother, the present Lord Fitch. He never approved of the marriage. Even after her death, they were involved with mutual business affairs. They jointly owned stock or some such thing.
Tell me, do you know what the general was doing at the time the intruder arrived?
Yes, he was working on the new section of his book, the part that concerns the gem, the Polar Star. It was very interesting, really. It traces the ownership of the gem to the brother of Napoleon, to the Russian Count Rostov. Unfortunately, the gem was stolen from the Count 3 years ago. As a matter of fact, the general just received a letter from a Pierre Montan, who said that he was willing to divulge the name of the present owner of the gem for the agreed-upon fee.
Do you know where Mr. Montan might be found?
I believe he's staying at the Bridge House Hotel.
Did the general have any encounters with anyone out of the ordinary in the past several days?
Not really. An old friend of his has been in town, Jean-Paul Girard. Neither the general nor I have seen him in 40 years. In fact, they were going to meet this afternoon at the French embassy.
I'm obviously curious about the general's last visitor. Could you describe him, please?
He was an old man, a rather short fellow. He walked with a cane and carried a carpet-bag.
Did he give a name?
No. He simply wanted to see the general, and he handed me a letter to take in to him.
Did you read it?
No. It was in an envelope, rather yellowed with age, though I noticed it was addressed in a graceful hand to Captain Armstead, 12th Hussars, the general's old regiment. When the general read it, he went very pale. Then he asked me to admit the gentleman.
Tell me, when you finally got into the room from the garden, were the study doors still locked?
Yes.
I noticed that there is an 8-foot fence surrounding the garden, and that the only way into the garden or out of it is through the kitchen door or the study.
How terribly observant, Holmes.
Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot of stuff. So there's Fitch. There's the embassy. Was it the French embassy?
Farney and I spent over a year quartered together in France in War College. We became the best of friends.
Did you know much of the general's personal life at the time?
He always put the rest of us to shame in the matters of love. Said it was because we had no horse face to spur us on.
Did the general have a passion for horses?
Mon Dieu, no. He was engaged to a terribly unattractive woman by the name of Mary Fitch. Behind her back, that's what he called her. Horseface.
How dreadful. Whatever became of her?
She eventually became Mrs. Armstead and brought her great fortune to the marriage.
So Fitch.
I believe that Farney looked upon his stay in France as his last great fling.
Are you saying that there was no particular woman at the time?
I did not say that. There was one, but I never met her. My little flower, he called her. I remember one night he could not sleep. He was slightly drunk, and he kept rambling on about promises that must be kept and promises that couldn't be. Finally, he collapsed on the bed with such sadness in his eyes I will never forget it. "Ma Fleurette," he said. How very touching.
Have you seen much of the General over the years?
We have always maintained our friendship through correspondence, until last week, that is. It was the first time we had seen each other in over 40 years. We had supper, and then went to see the French actor Philippe Arnaud perform. The General commented that my presence beside him while French was being spoken reminded him of the old days.
So your visit went well?
Exceedingly well.
Can you think of anything that might have been troubling him?
No, the General was in excellent spirits. He joked about the upcoming Tontine celebration at the Langham, and he was very enthusiastic about the new information concerning the Polar Star. In fact, this week he was supposed to meet with a countryman of mine about it. It is hard to believe that my good friend is gone.
I just realised he's got a cane, so he's the person who visited him. Let's check Fitch.
I admit I strongly disliked Armstead. He was a cad who made my sister's life miserable. I argued at length with my father against the marriage, but to no avail.
But what was your sister's opinion at the time?
Well, unfortunately, Mary was not the attractive sort who had scores of suitors. My father was afraid she'd be left a spinster. The engagement was arranged just before Armstead went to France. During the year he was gone, I had him watched and discovered he was in the thick of some scandal involving a young French girl.
And you told your father?
Well, he wouldn't listen. I even went so far as to give the story to the newspapers. But my father got wind of it and used his influence to prevent its publication. I would have done anything to keep my sister away from that man.
Even murder?
Including murder?
Why, that's preposterous. Well, surely you don't think... I was scheduled to meet with Armstead today. But you see, my wife took ill. I spent the whole morning attending to her here until Dr. Ainstree arrived at around 11 o'clock.
Oh my god, there's so many names, bro. Alright, let's go back to A. I don't feel like he's going to be important, though. Like, as of yet. Who else have we got? We've had so many people's names. None of them ring a bell. I'm gonna check these two out anyway, just to...
Do you people have nothing better to do with your time than to interfere in police matters? Well, don't bother with this one. We have the matter under control. I've compiled a list of suspects, which you may not see. I intend to ask each one for an alibi, and the suspect unable to supply one is our killer. Quite scientific, really. Now, off with you.
Don't know about that.
I'm here regarding the Armstead case. I take it this is the saber he had in his hand at the time of his death?
Aye, indeed it is. A lovely thing to behold, isn't it? Unfortunately, it yielded very little evidence. The top half had traces of dust all along it, indicating it had been unused for quite some time. I did notice on the point a tiny amount of fresh blood.
Okay.
The General must have scratched his opponent. I'm sorry, Whitson. That's all the information to be gathered from this beautiful masterpiece. En garde!
That's Watson, sir. Watson.
Okay, tiny bit of blood. There's too many names all the time. Read all the newspapers. I don't know which newspaper it is, so we're reading all of them.
Ellis, my good man, what can you tell us about the Tontine story?
Time does take its toll, doesn't it? Back in 1865, the Times sponsored a 50th anniversary banquet. I'm quite sure I wasn't out of my pram, but I understand there were 204 survivors at the time. Now there are only 6. Pardon me, 5. Now that the poor general has been skewered.
There was the twins. I can't remember the name of the twins. But there are twins.
General Armstead. Believe I know that name in connection with the Polar Star Diamond.
Yes.
Believe it was once owned by the Russian Count Rostov, some rich old duffer. Towards the end of '87, somebody pinched it.
Do you happen to know who?
Nobody knows for certain, mind you, but the word on the street was the thief was a Frenchie by the name of Andre Martin.
Forgot about them.
Had quite a reputation as a jewel thief, he did, though his reputation was based mostly on rumor. Just before the Polar Star was lifted, he had been seen in St. Petersburg. A few months later, his body was found floating in the Thames.
Drowned?
No, he had been strangled. The crime was never solved, and the diamond was never found.
Interesting. So if I go to him, he's gonna not be there.
I can't believe.
Left when Bobby looked like he was gonna run me in. Okay. London Library. What's happening there then? Is that what it's supposed to do? I'll keep it going for for a few seconds. I guess this is what it's supposed. Huh? Okay. Well, fair enough. I need to find the twins. I'm just looking for people with the same last name. I guess check the doctor. He's got to the bank as well, don't I? He's got to the bank.
We understand you were summoned to Lord Fitch's residence this morning.
Quite right. I received the message at around 9 o'clock and arrived at their home by 10. Lord Fitch met me at the door.
That's the truth.
Could you tell us
maybe the Cox as well. Okay. I need to look at my other evidence. I need to see the names of the people. Jean-Paul Gerard. Alright. Jean Gerard, maybe? Paul. Jean? This was one of them, right?
Captain,
Yeah.
did you know General Armstead?
Armpit, you say?
This one's a very old guy, right?
Armstead.
Oh, Armstead.
He's got kin as well.
I knew that bloke. A jolly good fellow. Sat next to me at the last shindig back in '65. The 50th anniversary and all that rot. We had a grand old time swapping lies about our adventures on foreign shores. He swore by French damsels, but I argued for the China ladies. I hope they catch the deckrat who killed him and hang him proper.
Have you seen the General since the 1865 banquet?
I've never seen the General with a blanket.
No, since the banquet.
Oh. No.
May I ask, what are your plans for the Tontine money should you win it?
Spend as much of it as I can while I'm still alive and kicking, and leave the rest of it to the Seamen's Fund when I'm dead. Or some people think I should leave it to my only kin, my nephew, Booth Lacey. I never would, mind you. He's a bit of a laggard, has never done an honest day's work in his life.
He could have done it.
I outlast the others and found the next day with my skull bashed in. Look to Booth. He's sure to be holding the club in his hand.
Okay. So, let's speak to Lacey Booth.
What did you discover, Watson?
He wasn't in, Holmes, though his landlady suggested we might try the Red Bull Inn. The woman practically talked my ear off. Went on and on about how Lacey constantly plays up to his uncle, Captain Jurgens, who's one of those old gents with a ticket in the tontine. I thought she'd never hush up.
Okay. Well, we're going to send some irregulars as well. Red Bull Inn.
I was wondering if you'd seen a Mr. Booth Lacey around here today.
Nope. Must be my lucky day.
Well then, if it's your lucky day, why not spread some good cheer in the form of a pint and some food to that unfortunate chap standing outside your door? Poor bloke is missing an arm and a leg.
That poor bloke's your one and only Booth Lacey. Well, the whole thing's an act. He's as normal as you and me. Spends half his time begging out front and the other half swindling folks down at London Bridge Station.
Interesting. So go to London Bridge Station as well. Yeah. We're off to London Bridge Station.
Mr. Lacey, I see you still make your living by strapping your arms and legs behind you and fooling the poor public out of its tuppence.
Man's got to make a living somehow. What can I do for you, Holmes?
I want to ask you about the murder of General Armstead.
General who?
Really, Lacey. Perhaps you can fool some of the public some of the time, but you can never fool Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, that General Armstead.
Where were you at 10 o'clock this morning?
Where else would I be? I was at church.
You, Lacey, at church? It hardly seems likely.
I swear, at St. Mary's. They pass out soup and bread every morning at 9:30. The father will vouch for me. You can even ask him.
I may just do precisely that.
Okay. So we go to St. Mary's. Just to see.
I was wondering, Father,
So he's got
if you
an
happen to know
alibi.
a man by the name of Booth Lacey.
I should say that I do. I see him every morning.
At Vespers?
Wish that it were. No, at our soup kitchen. We can pray for the unfortunates of this world, certainly, but we can also offer them a little sustenance of a more nourishing kind. Every morning at 9:30, our doors are thrown open to those less privileged than ourselves. And every morning, without fail, Booth Lacey is here.
You're certain of that?
I am. You see, with only one arm, he needs someone to carry his bowl to the table. Invariably, I am that someone.
Okay, so it's not Booth Lacey, and I don't think it's his granddad either. Oh, I'm gonna have to read the newspaper in it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, occupation. Tax strike new sheep. Gorski. Potentially. Try Gorski. Okay, let's try that. Let's try that now. It's not a Gorski in there, okay. Fab. Fabulous. Oh, I don't bloody know. I don't bloody know, mate. What were the names? I can't remember anyone's names. No. Alright, I don't know. Alright, let's go. Try a notebook. Division, an old man with a cane and carpetbag who killed him. The French embassy. French embassy.
Farney and I spent over a...
Alright, did that. Let's try the American.
Oh, look.
Alright, let's send the irregulars there. Does the name Horseface mean anything to you? Yes, that's what he called his wife. It's not gonna be anything, is it? No. Was J.B. Francis one of them? Oh, wrong one. Malcolm Finch, he disliked him. Maybe there's another Fitch. There is not. Okay. Man with a cane is the killer, so who had the cane? It's not Booth Lacey. It could be it could be Captain Jurgen, and he's using Booth Lacey as like a failgate. Because it's not Lord Fitch. Yeah, so it's not Fitch. Who is the other person? Yeah, so it's not Fitch. Jean-Paul Gerard. Philip, I knew we could try that, I guess. Let's try that.
I've rung the bell a half-dozen times and no one has come to the door.
Really, Watson? Next time I would appreciate it if you would thoroughly research your leads before you ask me to come along.
Oh, let's send the irregulars there then. Did I go to Amsterdam? I did, didn't I?
I found the general...
Yeah. Mrs. Rebecca Allen.
She wondered why...
I'm not just gonna guess. Oh wait, I could go to one of the theatres. Allegro, was it? No. Oh, I can't remember which it was. No. No? Imperial? No. Which one was it? I could go to the library, I guess, just have a look there. Oh wait, no, yeah, the library's booked for some reason. No. The Princess Theatre? Oh! Important Discovery!
Ah, but you must see Philippe perform.
Yeah.
My nephew's an artist, a wonder. He manages to portray the Emperor Napoleon from age 19 until his last days on the island of Savarnay.
Napoleon was turned.
You would swear 5 different actors playing the part, but no, it is only Philippe aging before your eyes. At 48, he's the toast of the continent.
You seem rather young to be the uncle of a 48-year-old man.
I am but 8 years older than Philippe, though I can assure you I am his uncle. You might say that our family has a history of late arrivals. Philippe's father was 25 years older than myself, and Philippe's poor sister was 15 years older than he.
Why do you say poor?
She died many years ago under tragic circumstances. In fact, her mother was so upset over her daughter's death that she was put into an asylum. We received word yesterday from the asylum that she had also passed away. It upset Philippe very much, resurrecting old ghosts, as you might say. But We have been playing for enthusiastic audiences for several weeks. As we say in the business, the show must go on. And Philippe is a trooper. He would never allow it to affect his performance.
Can you tell us where Philippe Arnaud is this morning? We should like very much to meet him.
Well, he is not here now. Our company is staying at the Grand Hotel.
Oh.
However, I believe today he is visiting the National Gallery. But if you would come back this evening,
National
I will
Gallery,
have tickets
Grand
awaiting,
Hotel.
and after the show, you're welcome to come backstage and meet him.
Okay, so the general, when he died, he'd turned Napoleon to face the wall. This guy plays Napoleon in the performance. That can't be a coincidence. We'll go to the National Gallery first, and then we'll check the Grand Hotel.
I can't believe we came all this way when there are more important...
We're not going to go there, we're going to go straight to the Grand Hotel. Key
How
witness.
fortunate that Inspector Lestrade authorized the hotel manager to allow us to search Philippe Arnaud's room.
Perhaps we can return the
He's gonna
favor and
write a little
solve the
bit
case
of
for him
blood on his
someday.
bed,
Today,
maybe.
for example. Let's look around.
How strange that a man who requires a cane would leave without it.
Perhaps he doesn't require it for walking.
Oh.
Look here at the handle. Well, that could certainly give a fellow a start.
Precisely, Watson. Look here. It appears to be a letter.
Looks quite old. It's addressed to Captain Armstead, 12th Hussars.
Okay.
Shall I read it?
Oh, wow.
Dearest, how I hated you for leaving me, but the child, our child, eased my heartache and muted the hate. Now my sweet baby is dead. How cruel that the innocent must suffer for the sins of others. Now I have nothing. Now I am nothing. I cannot bear the pain. Goodbye, I love you still, Fleurette. How tragic.
Oh, shit.
Why, perhaps this is the very letter that the General read.
Good thinking, Watson.
Okay, so this has changed everything. So, he has gone to see Philip at the theatre and stuff, and Philip's performing Napoleon, and he's got Napoleon at his house. He's got a sword in his thing, and he's done the on guard kind of thing, and he's fighting him, and as he's dying, he's turned Napoleon around to be like, it's Napoleon who's done it. So Philip's the one who's killed him. He's got the letter saying Fleurette. And that's what the general called his girlfriend, right? So maybe he's like jealous. Maybe it's like he's jealous that he's going out with that person or something. Yeah. And he's got the... I don't know. I don't know if that's enough. Normally after I've got the 4 achievements, that means I've got enough to go to the judge, so... You found all the key
Hear
clues?
ye, hear ye.
Bruh!
The Queen's Court now
half an
stands
hour.
in order.
Shit, okay.
I
Who
see
killed...
we have the pleasure of your company, Mr. Holmes. I understand you've been investigating the murder of General Farnsworth
Philip Arnaud.
Armstead.
That's correct, my lord, and I believe I have solved...
A brilliantly
What was the motive
logical
for his
deduction,
killing?
Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, my lord.
Now tell us, why was the General
Wait.
killed?
Arnaud. Who was Arnaud? No, I'm thinking of Fitch. To get him out of the running for the Tontine. I don't think it'll be that, because he wasn't one of the people that was getting the prize money. To avenge the honour of his... I mean, the duel would make sense for like, defend the honour kind of thing. Is it Arnaud's sister that he was calling Horseface, or was that Fitch's sister? I think it could be Arnaud's. I'm pretty sure it was Fitch's sister that was called Horseface, and that was the one married to him. And Fleurette's Arnaud's sister, right? Surely. Oh wait, but she died. So, to prevent the publication of revised edition of because of his marriage of convenience to Mary Fitch. I'm gonna say to honour his sister, you know, because if he's had a letter, Fleurette and stuff, and then he's intercepted it or something. Oh, that's right.
Now, tell me, gentlemen,
Why was
What
the
was
figure
the
of
general
Napoleon
trying
turned
to
around?
say when he
wasn't
turned
trying to
round the
say
figure
anything,
of
the figure was
Napoleon?
no. Warlike murder is in exercise in futility. The sword that killed him was identical to the one Napoleon carried at Waterloo. His murderer was the actor portraying Napoleon. Yes.
Rather clever of the old boy, what?
What name did the general call Mary Phipps?
A man
Oh,
who keeps
Horseface.
his wits about him.
Well,
fucking-
you've done an
I smashed
admirable
it.
job in resolving
Mate,
this mystery.
Just over half an
I'd
hour.
say you're on a par with just about any other armchair detective out there.
What do you mean, bro?
I would
smashed
suggest,
it.
however, that you rethink this case again, thereby improving your sleuthing skills.
I absolutely smashed it, bro. What are you talking about? Alright, let's see what Sherlock would have done then. I talked with Mr. Holmes about the General Amsterd's affair, poor bloke. As far as clue points go, here's how you did. You listened to 420 is not too bad. Let's see what he said.
You say you've come up with a solution, and yet you sit there calmly cleaning your meerschaum. Please, Holmes, tell me what you've uncovered.
Of course, Watson. It's quite simple, really. The most intriguing fact about this murder was the method. Mr. Sennett's report that he heard the distinct sound of swordplay struck me as most odd.
Yeah.
It suggested an affair of honor.
Yeah.
At General Armstead's home, my suspicions were confirmed. The old letter
Salary's nice
addressed
at honor.
to Captain Armstead, a rank he'd held some 40 years ago, suggested that it must have concerned something from the past.
Oh, and because the
Something
daughter
that was clearly upsetting
sister
to
was
him.
dead, yeah.
That was the reason for the duel.
But how can you be so sure there was a duel?
Simple reasoning, my dear Watson.
Sword had
The general had time to place his chair against the wall, climb upon it, and retrieve a saber. The murderer allowed him to arm himself. A duel is the only event that fits with the facts.
Oh, yeah, because it was dusty.
Are you sure the caller carried a sword? I thought all he had with him was a carpet bag and a cane.
The cane.
Perhaps it only appeared to be a cane.
Ah, yes.
The intruder was described as an old man, yet he left the premises over an 8-foot wall. Clearly he was in disguise and carried off the ruse with enough expertise to completely fool the general's manservant. The carpet bag must have been used as the receptacle of the disguise when it was no longer needed.
Positively clever of you, Holmes. But what made you think it was Arnaud?
Well, since we were looking for someone adept at the art of disguise,
Actor.
Gerard's mention of the actor Philippe Arnaud struck a chord. Also, Arnaud plays Napoleon.
Yeah, and Napoleon
No
was
small
facing the wall.
coincidence.
What are you getting at, Holmes?
When the general turned round at the figure of Napoleon, he was trying to tell us that his murderer was Napoleon. Or rather, the actor playing Napoleon, Philippe Arnaud.
Nice.
So Arnaud killed the general to avenge his long-dead sister's honor. Ah, well, unlike most of our cases, this motive was closer to the heart than to the pocketbook.
Quite so, Watson. When Arnaud's sister Fleurette was an impressionable young girl, she fell madly in love with the dashing English captain. When he left, she took her own life.
Oh.
So pathetic.
Wait, there's more. Fleurette's grief-stricken mother went mad and was sent into an asylum. Thus, in the twinkling of an eye, little Philippe Arnaud, who was but a child himself,
Oh, and so
lost
because
both
he
his
found
mother
out
and his
yesterday,
sister.
yeah.
It's so sad. I'm sure he was too young to understand the circumstances that caused it.
Yes, but 4 decades later it all became clear when he found a letter written by his sister. It yielded an explanation and a name. Armstead. He came to London armed with that letter and a sword cane.
But he was here for several weeks before he did the deed.
Yes, and he might not have done it at all had it not been for the news of his mother's death. That was the final blow. He went straight away to the general's home to take his revenge. Voila.
Positively brilliant, Holmes. How do you do it?
With his pipe cleaner, of course.
Well then. Oh, that was so sick. I thought I smashed that, but apparently not. But there's more sleuthing to it than you'd think until you actually, like, 'cause obviously I knew what it was, but then there's more of it that you just don't think about in a general way. So that's why Sherlock Holmes is the best of the best. Well, that's it now for all of the non-canonical Sherlock Holmes games. So next up, it will be the proper Sherlock Holmes games. And I'll see you there.